Hey, Liberty North AP Psych. Good afternoon. Again, hope you're getting outside and enjoying the sun and the fun weather. If you want to go ahead and get out your Chapter 15 lab, we'll be doing personality test number 3, which is Walk in the Woods. And then thank you to Caitlin Peak, who emailed me today and said that I had my numbers wrong on the lab for Chapter 15. So I've corrected those. So I kind of went out of order, just messed up the numbers. So this is number 3, okay? You need, yesterday, had an great unconscious example. I did not know it, but I was whistling the theme song to the Masters golf tournament all day yesterday. I just started, and then actually I played golf with my son. And then on the way home, he asked me, he goes, "Do you know that you've been whistling the theme song to the Masters all day?" And I had no idea that I was even doing it. And so we started talking about why. And then we figured out that this is Masters season. You know, spring, the sun, you know, I always associate it with golf season, NCAA basketball tournament, and then the Masters golf tournament, which would have started April 12th. So it's definitely Masters season. So unconsciously, my mind knew that. And knew that it was this time of year, and unconsciously picked that song to be whistling, and then lo and behold. So pretty fascinating. Also, when we talk about psych disorders, a lot of times people who have PTSD get unconscious symptoms, you know, months before the actual anniversary, but the anniversary date is always pretty significant as far as just having symptoms, whether they remember whether it's the anniversary date or not. So it's always kind of interesting how, again, just a great example of how our unconscious mind works. Okay, so this one's called Walk in the Woods. You need to number 1 to 10. Okay, and I'm just going to read this one. You do not need to skip spaces. This is also one that a lot of people really like to share or give, or you can go back and get the questions as well. But this would be a fun one to give family and friends, and then again, scientifically test it for validity, reliability. Okay. Okay, so here are the directions. Have a pen and paper handy before you read any further. As soon as a question is read, write down the first thing again that comes to your mind regarding the question. So again, initially you might have several things come to your mind that are not related to the question. But okay, it does say don't obsess or think obsessively about the questions. Just kind of relax. Something will come. So let your unconscious surface. Okay, I have to go in order. And again, your job is to write the first thing that you visualize related to the question. Okay. All right, so we're going to mentally go on a little hike. You need to visualize the situations in your head. So if you want to close your eyes, you can do that. But just kind of visualize the questions as we go. Then it'll be one continuous journey, okay? All right, so we're gonna take a walk through the woods. So you need a picture in your mind that you're walking. And then number 1, once you are picturing yourself walking through the woods, you need to write down, who are you walking with? Okay. Number 2, as you continually walk further and further into the woods, you see an animal. What animal do you see? And yes, Zach, you're right. That would be an unconscious prime, if you will, or association. Yeah, the theme song with the tournament theme song. Then I hear it all the time during this time of year. So yeah, it's just a cycle of classical conditioning. Okay, all right, so after your animal, number 3, something happens between you and the animal. What happens? So there's an interaction that takes place between you and the animal. What is the interaction? Get this down. Okay, number 4. Okay, you walk further into the woods and you enter a clearing. Before you is your dream house. describe the size of your dream house. Number 5, is there a fence around your dream house? Yes or no? All right, number 6, you're going to enter your dream house. So you enter through the front door, and then you walk to what would be your dining area, and you see a dining room table. Describe what you see on and around your dining room table. All right, number 7, you exit your house through the back door. So you kind of go into your backyard. And before you, lying in the grass, is a cup. What material is the cup made of? And number 8 is, what do you do with the cup? Okay, number 9 is you walk to the edge of the property, so the edge of your backyard, where you find yourself standing at the edge of a body of water. What type of body of water is it? Okay. And then number 10, you have to cross this body of water. How do you get, just making sure as I did this morning, did it glitch or anything? Does anybody need me to repeat a question? Is that number 5, Lauren? Number 5. Is your dream house surrounded by a fence? That's number 5. All right, Zach. Number 10 is you have to get across that body of water that you've pictured. How are you going to cross the body of water? Okay, are we good? Okay. Okay. All right. So here is your answer guide. This has been a relational unconscious psychology test. The answers given to the questions have been shown to have unconscious relevance to values, ideals, and personality. The analysis is as follows. Number 1, the person you are walking with is unconsciously the most important person in your life currently. So again, you can't be walking by yourself, which would show that you are your most important person at this time. Number 2, the size of the animal. So it's really the size. It's not what animal you put down like it was on Monday. The size of the animal represents the unconscious perception of the size of your problems. So bigger the animal, the bigger the problems that you have. A lot of people obviously were in a forest, so a very popular answer would squirrel, rabbit would be small. Number 3, your interaction actually unconsciously describes how you handle and deal with your problems. So if it's a passive type of interaction, then you passively deal with your problems. If it's an aggressive type of interaction, then you aggressively handle your problems. Okay, so that's a simple explanation. But again, you're just describing how you kind of handle your problems unconsciously. Okay. The size of your house represents the size of your ambition or motivation about the future. Actually, just do motivation and ambition. And then I always have people say, does anybody put a small house down? And the answer is yes, quite a few. Probably some of you have. You know, it's usually like a small cottage or something like that in the woods. Kind of what they go for. Number 5, no fence and fence. So, okay, number 6, what was on, in, and around your dining room table? And don't get mad at me for this one, but if your answer did not include, okay, so you just have to have one of these. If it didn't include food, people, or flowers, you are generally unhappy. Yes. 5, repeating for a student here. 5, no fence. So 5 was the fence. 5, if you have a fence, that means that you have a closed personality, most likely introverted. If you don't have a fence, open personality, most likely extroverted. 6 is if the table does not have people, food, or flowers on or around it, then you're generally unhappy. Okay, 7, the material that the cup is made of represents the durability of your relationship with the person you put in number 1. Okay, so basically it indicates unconsciously how strong you view the relationship with the individual at number 1 is. So if it's, that would be much more durable and much more of a strong relationship. Okay, number 8, what do you do with the cup? Represents your attitude towards the person in number 1. So however you interact or handle the cup, that's an unconscious representation of your attitude towards the person in number 1. That one probably more than anything is going to require you to kind of reflect on that answer a little bit. Again, it comes from your unconscious mind. So yeah, there could be a lot of representation there. Number 9, so big, small, pleasant, scary, whatever. And number 10 is your unconscious view of your love life. Okay, so basically it's the more wet you get crossing the body of water, the more of an unconscious emphasis you put on love, right? This is romantic love. Okay, the less wet you get, the less important it is. So if you obviously swim or walk across the body of water, you're going to get wet. So that would be an unconscious larger motive or drive. And then like if you row a boat, if you get in a boat, or if you walk around it. Okay. Yeah, 9 was, again, the size of the body of water. So 9, you just had to picture a body of water. And so the size represents, same thing as Monday, the size of the body of water represents your view of your future. Okay, unconsciously how you view your future. Okay. Sorry it's slow today. Yeah, I don't know why. Today, I don't think we have anybody else online today. Are we good? And I think even if it cuts out on the live stream, I think when you watch it over, it doesn't cut out, hopefully. But okay, this one actually is on the internet as well. I think if you Google walk in the woods, I think you'll get a version of that one. It's a pretty popular one. Again, if you need to go back, I don't think the live stream this morning cut out at all. But if you want to go back and look at it, make sure you give it to friends or family, and just see what it says, see how accurate it is. I think it's good because there's 10 questions, so you can, say if they thought 7 were accurate, 70% accuracy, whatever, so on and so forth. Okay. So it looked like it cut out on 9. Yeah, sounds like it cuts out on 5 and 6, 10, and 9. 5, 6, 9, and 10. So again, 5 was, what was 5? 5 was the size of your dream house, represents the size of your problems, personality, extroverted. 6, you see your dining room table, what's on and around your dining room table. So again, the answer needs to include flowers, people, or food for you to be happy. 9 is you have a body of water at the edge of your property. What is the body of water? And then 10 is you have to cross that body of water. How are you going to cross it? Okay. Okay, so we're going to be on page 601 today. We're going to finish. Yes, they do. The thumbnails do count. Zach, good question. And there's a bonus one today, so don't forget about it. Okay. So we're going to finish psychoanalytic theory for personality. The book dedicates most of the time to Freudian theory because, again, most of Freud's theory with the unconscious influence in our personality is pretty genius. Just that one little hiccup there with the psychosexual stages of development. We need to understand also, as well, is that there are many other theorists and psychologists who were psychoanalytic or psychodynamic, who also believe that the unconscious plays a big part in our personality and our behavior, but they don't agree with Freud's view of the unconscious. So what I want you to know that. So help keep it load. That's the big lesson today. So I'm gonna introduce you to the Neo Freudians, which are on page 601, which are all psychodynamic therapists, psychologists, historical, who basically were attached or worked with Freud at one point in their careers, and then kind of broke off. And that's so the first thing we need to cover today is the difference between psychoanalytic, which is Freud, and psychodynamic, which is more of the newer term for the psychoanalytic perspective. So generally, if we say psychoanalysis, psychoanalytic, those are Freudian terms for the unconscious and basically his theories. Psychodynamic means that I do believe that the unconscious is the main motive of behavior and the main developmental factor of personality, but I don't agree with what Freud says is in the unconscious mind. So all of these theorists here, and there are others, and there are more, believe that the unconscious sex, anger, that type of really dark stuff in there, but mainly sex. And so a lot of the psychodynamic psychologists who still believe in the emphasis of the unconscious mind, they just didn't agree that in the unconscious mind there was sex, or that wasn't it's the first one, it's the most historical one. And yes, it does describe certain people's unconscious mind, but again, Freud worked with only sick people. These other theorists, worked with healthy people as well. And so they got to see the other side that maybe Freud didn't see or didn't want to see. And that there are other things, there has to be other things in our unconscious mind than just sex, okay? So psychoanalytic is Freud, unconscious. This is kind of the newer regime of unconscious, if you want. Psychodynamic look at the unconscious mind and trying to, discover what's in there and then bring it out into the open and deal with it. This is very long and painstaking. You can be in psychoanalysis for years. I've read case studies of 12 years of psychoanalytic therapy. Psychodynamic is actually faster. It's kind of more culturally relevant, if you will. What learning target? Savannah, we're still on 2 and 3. Okay, and there's only 5 but we're still on who are important names and then what are the theories. Did Freud have an obsession with sick people? I think, yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's a pretty good observation. I think the obsession was with trying to figure out what was wrong with them, what caused their infirmity and sickness. So yeah, I would say that's probably, he didn't really think that healthy people, he didn't really go to the viewpoint that we should use healthy people as controls, or just kind of to compare. He just, was in the world of sick people, and that's where he lived. And he himself was sick as well. So, okay. So just know the difference between the two, because in the book on page 16 or on 601, it uses psychodynamic, which is the appropriate word, because these theorists all agree in the unconscious. They just disagree with Freud on what was in the unconscious. Okay. Now, each one of these theorists actually belonged. Freud created a secret society that would meet in his office on Wednesday nights after work, and they would discuss the unconscious mind, psychoanalysis, psychoanalytic theory, and how it's going to change the world. Because remember, this is brand new at the time. It is very revolutionary. It's not being accepted everywhere. But Freud, again, does do research on it, countless. He's obsessed with it. And so they're just talking about how this is going to be the new greatest thing in the medical community, psychology happen is the other theorists, again, disagree with Freud about what's in the unconscious mind. Not that the unconscious mind exists and not that it does have influence on personality behavior, but what actually is in there. Freud was obsessed with sex. And so that's generally what he looked at in there. And if it wasn't sex, it was aggression. It was kind of all the dark stuff. These theorists begin to believe that there were other things in the unconscious mind. And some believe that sex actually wasn't even in there. So you didn't disagree with Freud. Freud had issues, so he kicked all of these people out of the secret society. They all had like nice little rings and so on and so forth. So he eventually excommunicates or kicks these people out, which actually greatly impacts Freud's life because one of them is Carl Jung, who was the golden boy. That's who Freud kind of handpicked to carry on his legacy in psychoanalysis after he died. And then if you notice, his youngest daughter is down here, and he even kind of disowns her because she begins to disagree with his theories as well. So each one of these Neo Freudians, that's where they get their name from, is that they originally were aligned with Freud, worked with Freud. They originally were believers in the psychoanalytic theory. And then what began to happen is they began to see differences in what is in the unconscious mind. And then they all left Freud or were kicked out or forced to leave. And then they all still, with many other psychologists who believe in the unconscious influences on our personality behavior, just kind of then began to use their own views of what's in the unconscious to help people and to develop personality theories and so on and so forth. Okay, so what they're going to differ in, and what I have here listed by each name, is kind of what they believe was the main conflict in our unconscious mind that we were trying to resolve. Okay, so for example, Alfred Adler. Okay, and some of you have heard the term inferiority complex. That comes from Adler's theory. So Adler believed that really the only thing in the unconscious mind is our striving for superiority, mastery in every area of our life, and to avoid feeling inferior. And any area of our life that we do feel inferior, we develop an inferiority complex. Okay, so I don't know if anybody's heard of little man syndrome, kind of like culturally relevant term, but it's from Adler. Now, I don't think he created little man syndrome, but that's exactly what you're describing. Is you're describing somebody who's compensating for feeling inferior in any area of their life or a lot of areas of their lives. And Adler himself, based his theory on his experience. He was a very sickly child. He was small. He had a lot of infirmities, very weak. And so he had a lot of inferiority in his life. And basically in his experience, his unconscious conflict was totally about dealing with those areas of inferiority and trying to get areas in which he felt superior, that he mastered in life. And it was always this big conflict between inferior and superior. And so he felt like that, we'll fix areas, stuff like that. But that's the main conflict. Now, again, I'm going to say psychodynamic also emphasizes more the childhood area, and that we have unconscious conflicts as a child that then can carry over with us in life, later on in life. And so most of these are going to be conflicts that we have in childhood and that shape us later on. Okay. I got questions here. Zach, did Freud ever psychoanalyze or psychologically experiment with his daughter? Yes. So your strive to avoid the inferiority or to have masterful comes, it's an unconscious drive. Okay, so we don't sit there and consciously think, okay, I need to master this, master that, whatever. It's an unconscious drive for superiority or mastery in areas of our lives. Okay. All right, Karen Horney, you guys, especially some of you that watch the afternoon, you guys would really get along with Dr. Horney. She was pretty sexist. So the fact that she actually even got into the society is amazing, because I think it was very rare for Freud to even, give females a second look or to grant them the professional appreciation by inviting her Dr. Horney into his secret society and so on and so forth. Now, she didn't last very long. She was a very authoritative, strong woman. And Freud was the same, and so they butted heads quite a bit, obviously. But again, and a real funny kind of trivia side note is we talk about Freud's theory of penis envy. Dr. Horney created the theory of womb envy, which is basically all men unconsciously strive and desire to be females because we marvel at their ability to create life, to conceive, and we all unconsciously wish that we had a womb. So you can kind of see the professional back and forth there. So she leaves, and basically, she definitely disagreed that children, are consumed and unconsciously motivated by sexual energy. So she said, actually, the unconscious conflict is trying to strive for love and security in every area. She did talk a lot about attachment, which we talked in chapter 4. But she said children are longing for love and security. And if they get it, they develop healthily. If they don't, then they have issues. They compensate, and then they can have conflicts that they'll need to resolve later on in life. And she talked a lot about anxiety and helplessness, learned helplessness, that external locus of control. And that if we don't find love and security, these are kind of two of the areas. Now, there be more side effects, but these are two of the areas that she kind of specialized in. And actually, there's a lot of her writings that are used. If you're treating somebody with that external locus, recognize his stuff, especially in literature and things like that, with the collective unconscious and archetypes that are used in stories, movies. That all originates from Jung. Actually, the Myers-Briggs personality test is based off of Jung and the archetypes as well. But if you go to Barnes & Noble, probably the most published author that you're going to see is Jung, at least from the historical context. He has a lot of writings out there. Again, he was Freud's golden boy. He was chosen. He was handpicked to carry on the legacy of psychoanalysis. So that when they split, Freud even wrote about it, that it really hit him hard. He had problems dealing with that. He felt like he'd lost a son, so on and so forth. He'd lost a family member. There's just a lot of historical stuff. If you really want an intriguing story, go back and look at Freud's life, because it is full of, it definitely should be made into a movie. I think they made a movie off of Jung, but Freud should definitely be a movie, because then I think they probably have. Yeah, they have. Actually, I've seen one. I don't know why I just forgot about that. But yeah, it's a very interesting story. Very interesting man for sure. But Carl Jung basically said that, now he was kind of the one that came out and said, yeah, we do have darkness and dark things in our unconscious, but we also have bright things. So that he kind of probably the most closely resembles Freud's theory a little bit, but definitely disagreed with the sex. He said sex is a part of it. But basically, and these are kind of hard to conceptualize, but Jung believed that in our unconscious mind, it was called the collective unconscious, which is kind of like ancestral information, if you will. It's lessons, it's information passed down from generation. My collective unconscious, I have archetypes, which are universal themes that basically unconsciously motivate me in my conscious thought and personality development. So again, there's the archetype of the hero, right, of the villain. There's a challenge, there's like a sidekick. There's the wise old man, which is this is generally why I have Kung Fu Panda up in my room. There's a lot of archetypes, yin and yang, which was in Rise of Skywalker as well. So there's a lot of these universal themes that come out in specific archetypes or roles, and we're unconsciously motivated to fulfill those roles in our own life. So we are unconsciously motivated to be a hero. We also are unconsciously motivated to be a villain at times. You guys could probably all think of that. There's times in which you decided to be argumentative, difficult to get along with, those type of things, that we want to be the wise old man, the nurturing mother, that type of thing, the victim, so on and so forth. So in our unconscious mind, we had just this well soul of ancestral knowledge. Okay? And then lastly is Anna Freud, and she's actually not in your book. I just added her because, number one, she's a daughter to Freud. She's his youngest daughter. Now, Freud actually picked his oldest daughter to be the family heirloom of psychoanalysis. He did not pick Anna, but the oldest daughter didn't really show a fancy or passion for psychology. Anna did, and so Freud then began to pass his knowledge on to her. And then Anna, of course, disagreed, because Anna actually worked with children quite a bit, and she did not see, just like Karen Horney, she did not see the unconscious motive or desire or conflict with sex. So she disagreed with all the psychosexual stages of development. And again, you just didn't disagree with Freud, and Freud basically just disowned her, which is a very sad story. And there's actually a lot of sadness in Freud's family with his daughters and so on and so forth. So, but Anna Freud actually kind of goes on to have a prominent career in psychology, mainly working with children. She kind of is unofficially in some aspects of psychology, kind of the field, the specialty area of child psychology. She's also kind of unofficially given the title of being the founder of play therapy, especially with children. So letting children play with toys while they're in therapy, and then you're more likely to get to their unconscious mind. And then she kind of aligned with Erickson, actually. Now, I think she was, so either way, but she basically just said that, look, we can't really, there's so much in the unconscious mind. You can't specifically just say it's one thing. There are many things there. And basically what it is that children just progress through different unconscious conflicts. So it's very similar to Erickson. Each level had a conflict: trust versus mistrust, identity versus role confusion. That's what she said it was like as a child. You are just continually confronted with these internal unconscious conflicts, whether it be inferiority, love, security. She's like, it could be all those. So it's kind of a really good, summary of actually what they're saying. So she's saying it's just not one thing. It's children have a lot of conflicts that they unconsciously have to resolve. And if they don't, it can lead to issues further down the road. So helping them do that was actually what she was really good at, working with children. Let's see what questions. Yes, they did believe in the id, ego, and superego. Did the Neo Freudians believe in the id, ego, superego? That's a really good question. Answer is yes, they did, but they differed about the id. That would be the main thing there. So the id is, according to Freud, is largely consumed about sexual desires and motives, and the Neo Freudians didn't. They also believed in defense mechanisms as well. So the parts that were genius of Freud's theory, they definitely aligned to. I think all of them, but Jung. I think Jung did agree with the psychosexual stages, not completely, but partially. The rest of them didn't believe that either. So, okay. So the unified's in there, and probably the most comprehensive look would be Anna, about what was in there, just natural conflict. Okay. All right. Any other questions for today? As we leave the unconscious mind for a little bit. Although tomorrow we were going to take, I'm going to figure out how to do it. We're going to take the TAT, which is the thematic apperception test, which is probably one of the more used unconscious tests today. It is amazingly accurate. I just got to find a way to do it with the live stream. You got to look at pictures. So, and there are pictures on the web. Okay, so the question is, looks like I've lost the stream, or now I'm back. Zach also asked, with Horney, would her love and security view of the id play more into Erickson's psychosocial development theory? Probably with just stage one, trust and mistrust. Well, then intimacy versus isolation. Yeah, there probably would be maybe those two, and maybe those might be it. I'm just thinking those two might be, because they specifically deal with finding love or security. So, well, no, yeah, there probably would be more, actually. Yeah, so there might be several there. So that's a good point. Yeah, probably a lot of them do, because those are actually needed in attachment. So yeah, it might be. Yeah, very good point. Very good question. Insightful, Zach. Good job. Anybody else? Looks like I had a big cutout there just a few minutes ago. Looks like for like 30 seconds. And again, YouTube also is redoing their whole streaming complex and their creation side. So that could have a lot to do with it as well. So also, for those of you who have problems, you can go to the Fix My Computer. What do they call that? What is that called? Self-service. And then if you reinstall Google Chrome, it'll reinstall it with all the updates that are in YouTube and Google Mail and all that stuff. So that might help. All right. All right, you guys have a good day. Get outside, enjoy the weather. And then, as my thumbnail showed today, get some cream soda Dr. Pepper. It's amazing. So could the unconscious mind drive us to develop and enter those stages that Erickson defines? I think the answer would be yes, definitely. The answer from Adler would be yes. Horney would be yes. Jung's kind of out there differently. And then Anna would be yes as well. Probably the only one maybe that might have a different idea about that would be Jung, just because his is so much different than everybody else's. And he wasn't focused on social development as all. So, yeah. Yeah, so you're basically saying what I said. Okay. All right. Getting up to 40 minutes. So you guys take care. If you need anything, let me know. Also, we're getting kind of comments that the kids are getting too much homework, too much busy work, too much work to do. So again, if you guys have inputs on that, just email me and let me know. Interested to know your thoughts of your chapter 15 lab. So I put a video in there of the Cat in the Hat. It's just like a 10-minute video of they're reading the book. If you know the story well, you don't even have to read the story if you don't want to. But it just basically asks, that's based on Freudian theory, as Toy Story is. Toy Story, obviously, I'm not going to require you to watch it. It asks for every character in the book. So you have the mom, cat, the fish, thing one, thing two, and then Sally and Conrad are the children. Which system of the personality do each one represent? Id, ego, superego. Now, some of them change, right? Yeah, some of them do change during the movie, just overall. And then just give me an example of 2 defense mechanisms, which they're all in there several times because it's Freudian. But that's kind of what you're doing. But if you have questions on that, just let me know. And again, email me with feedback about, again, I do not want to overwhelm you guys, and I do not want to give you a bunch of busy work, and I don't want to grade it either. So just let me know. Hope you guys are doing well. Hang in there. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.